Okay, so welcome to module 10, and I call this What's the Alternative? And the reason I'm putting this in is because I've been talking through all of the other modules about looking at an integrative approach, right? An integrated approach to this whole treatment plan. And I think this is critical, actually, and I'm a bit sort of evangelical about it, and I know I probably bore people to death, but actually there is not a them and us, and we've got to get away from this. You know, I found one of the most difficult things actually in the last 16 months of the last sort of treatments and everything that I went through is this kind of battle between the medical profession on one hand and the kind of alternative areas on the other. And I remember going to see a few alternative therapists and also some retreat spaces and getting away to those places, and they were adamant, oh, you shouldn't go down the medical route, you know, don't have chemo, don't have drugs, don't have this, don't have that, right? And they scare the crap out of you basically about going down the hard medical route and how damaging all the drugs are and everything else. But then on the other hand, when you go to the medical profession and you start talking to them about some of these other alternative therapies that are natural and are having great results around the world, they absolutely poo-poo those as well and say, oh, it's too risky, you know, none of it has been tested, none of it has been tried, you'd be absolutely mad to go and do that. You do realise if it comes back and you get secondary cancer, that's it, there's no cure, there's no coming back for it. So you kind of hover between these two camps and you're stuck in no man's land. Not only are you stuck in no man's land, well, that would be hard enough anyway if you were just going through a kind of healthy process, right? But you're already coping and trying to deal with your fears, absolutely horrendous fears and doubts around what's going on. You're already completely devastated about the news, and it's bloody scary. And now you're sitting in the middle of these two camps of people who are scaring the crap out of you, basically. And you are stuck in the middle. Now, not only do they scare you, and I'm not criticising both of them because they're both incredible and they both have a huge amount to offer and they're both incredibly valuable, but they're not sitting where we are, where I was. They're not sitting in the middle. Not only do they give you this kind of scaremongering stuff, I get it, but also they don't take any liability, of course, and of course I understand it, but they don't take any responsibility or liability for the decisions that you make. So you're given all this advice on one hand, and all this advice on the other hand, and all this scary stuff on one hand, and all the scary stuff on the other hand, and there you are sat in the middle, no one preparing to sort of commit to anything either way, and you have to make that decision. You know, and it's really, really hard to make that decision. It's very, very scary. And sometimes you get to the point where you're so overwhelmed with it, you really just do not know what to do. And I understand that some people get so overwhelmed that actually they're so scared they just follow the medical route and they just hand themselves over. And I get that, okay? I get it. So why was my approach slightly different? Well, my approach is this. Let's take all that's good out of the medical profession and all that's proven and tried and tested and all that's good there. And let's take all that's really good out of the alternative sector of the market and all the stuff that they can prove that's working and they've got results. And there's some incredible stories around the world of some amazing things that are happening for people who haven't gone down the medical route. Okay, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. So let's take all that's good from both sides and let's have an integrated approach to the whole process, the whole protocol of treating chronic disease. And that's really my mission, is to say to people, look, let's stop fighting each other and let's take the best of both worlds. So when I was given the diagnosis, for me, because I am one of these people and have been heavily criticised about it in the past, I don't accept anything. And on this occasion, I wasn't prepared to just hand myself over and accept anything. So what I decided to do, as you know, is study everything I possibly could on both sides. And I took an integrated approach. So in this module, I really want to talk to you about some of the alternative therapies that are out there that you may like to try. And I'm not saying that these fit everybody. You have to find something that literally works for you and it sort of resonates with you. But I've tried these. I've tried all of these ones that I'm going to talk to you about. I found them very effective for me because think about it this way. This is the kind of protocol that I took. I thought, okay, I'm going to follow the medical route. Their job is to give me and administer their protocol and the drugs that are needed. They've done trials, they're clinically tested. I will allow them to administer those drugs on this side. On this side, for me, it was my job, so that's their job, the medical profession. My job, in between all of these quite significant treatments, and they're quite brutal, as you know, chemo literally destroys everything. So and that good as well as bad, right? So my job in between each of these treatments and all the way through the whole journey was to keep my immune system and my health as huge as possible, as optimum as possible, right? My immunity had to be super high and my bloods had to be incredibly good. Not only do the bloods have to be good because if they're not, you can't have the treatment. They won't administer it, obviously, because you're not strong enough. But also that I needed my body to keep healing itself and to find that way to keep fighting. And I had to give it the best conditions I possibly could. So I didn't focus on the illness or anything. I focused on health and my immunity and my well-being. In fact, I wouldn't even discuss it. I wouldn't even discuss any disease or imbalance with anybody. I said to people, I will only discuss my health and I will only discuss my immune system. If you want to talk about health, I'm happy to have a chat with you. If you want to talk about disease, I'm not talking to you. I leave those discussions when I have it with my doctors. So the first section of this, really, of this whole piece in Module 10, is all about some of these alternative treatments, okay? So that's what I'm just going to go through. I'm not going to give you the details in depth. I'm just going to give you a basic insight into some of the treatments that you may wish to look at that could help to boost your health and your immune system. So I've sort of given you an idea as to why I looked at some of these alternative therapies, and I just want to go through some of the ones that I did for myself that I found incredibly effective, and I know they worked because the doctors and the nurses and my oncologist were literally stunned every time I went in and had my blood test done, ready to do the drugs. And in fact, I vowed to them that I would never miss one set of drugs because I would make sure that my bloods and my immune system was superb. And they said, well, you can't really say that. I said, no, I can and I will, and I vow to you now that I won't miss one. And I didn't. I literally didn't. In fact, I was told on a few occasions that my bloods were better than a normal person, whatever normal is supposed to be. And my last set of drugs I had in the chemo suite, when they did my blood percentage, I had 100% oxygen in my blood, which is phenomenal, okay? So this is despite all of the chemicals I've been pumping through my system for the year. So let's have a look at some of these alternative therapies. And I've kind of made a list and I'm prompting myself here just to make sure I've covered these. So the most important one for me, and I'm going to put it at the beginning because it's really important and it's a protocol I continue now, is that I went to see a Chinese herbalist. Really made a massive impact on my health throughout the year. Now, why did I do that? I tell you why. Because a friend of mine, about 6 or 7 years ago, diagnosed with breast cancer, went through primary breast cancer, and then she got it again. And when she went to the hospital, eventually they said to her, it's not treatable, we can't treat you anymore. And she turned up at her father's house and to say, obviously in floods of tears, her and her husband, to say that it had got, it was over in terms of the treatment. There was nothing they could do. He, by some chance, had heard of a Chinese herbalist, and I'm more than happy to share the link. And in fact, I probably will at the end. I'll share the links on an additional downloadable that you can have a look at. And there's lots of Chinese herbalists out there. You can pick one. We'll talk about practitioners in a minute. He was advised about this Chinese herbalist. She went to see this Chinese herbalist. She started taking these herbs that they gave her. And with no word of a lie, within 6 months, all the markers of her cancer had gone and nobody could understand it. So she told me this story, and it was weird that she told me 3 years before I was even diagnosed, and I remembered it. So I actually went to see this particular Chinese herbalist. Well, unbelievable. Think about this Chinese medicine. It's probably the oldest medicine in the world. It's thousands of years old. And one thing you have to remember, well, you may know this or may not, that thousands of years ago, you would pay your Chinese doctor to keep you well, and when you were sick, you stopped paying them. Now, that seems to me a pretty damn good protocol for a kind of medical practice. So it was in Chinese medicine, their whole theory, their whole sort of practice and protocol was around keeping you well. In fact, they didn't get paid if you were sick. And I think that's genius, okay? So I was given a load of herbs, and I think I shared them with you. I did in the vitamins and supplements section, and you'll see that it was looked like a bag of twigs that had been scraped off the forest floor. But I boil those up religiously, and I drink 2 cups a day, and I have done all the way through, and I will continue to do this. And I've gone occasionally, sort of every 3 or 4 months, and had that adjusted. Depending on what I'm going through. But basically what that's enabled me to do is cleanse my liver, cleanse my kidneys, because they were significantly damaged through all of the treatment. And also to build up my immune system. So you may want to have a look at Chinese herbs and find a really reputable Chinese herb list. And I'm sure there are lots. In fact, I know a few, and I'll be putting them on in a downloadable, as I said. But have a look and use that to boost up your immune system and your health during the process. So that was the first one, very critical for me. The other therapy that I looked at was ozone therapy and intravenous vitamin C. I'll put those together actually, because I did those protocols together. And I heard about this from somebody who had terminal lung cancer, and he was given about 4 weeks to live, and that was 4 years ago. And he has been going to this particular place overseas. It's in Europe, but I know that there are places here that certainly do the intravenous vitamin C, certainly in the UK, but anywhere you are in the world, start having a look at this. And chronic disease cannot survive in an oxygenated environment, okay, from what I've read. So therefore, if you can oxygenate the blood, therefore that chronic disease can't survive in that area, okay? And vitamin C also has massively positive effects on cancer particularly, and on other chronic diseases, and something that we really need to look at. So I talked about it in the supplement section, liposomal vitamin C, because it's high absorption rate, it's incredibly good and much better than normal vitamin C. So that's in the vitamin section, and you can have a look at that. But have a look at places that will do intravenous vitamin C and ozone therapy. And I did that in between my chemos to keep my immune system up. And basically with the intravenous ozone therapy, they hook you up, they take the blood out of your system, they oxygenate it, and they put it back in. And I was having this done sort of 10 times a day. It was a 10-time cycle. I was also getting, at the same place, intravenous high doses of vitamin C directly into my system, okay? Fantastic results. So have a look at that. You may find that that's something that might resonate with you, and you're prepared to take yourself and do that. The other one that I think is very valuable, more from a feeling good and increasing your energy and helping the body to flow, is Reiki. I'm actually a Reiki practitioner, and I know the benefits of Reiki myself. So I actually found another Reiki practitioner to go and see on a regular basis. And Reiki works with the energy points across the body, and it helps the body to flow, and it activates all of the chakras in the body. So to make sure that your body is aligned, okay? So if you can, try and find yourself a Reiki practitioner and try and get Reiki regularly. It just really boosts your energy levels. It starts to balance your body, I believe, and it allows the energy to flow around your body. Because in Chinese medicine and Eastern philosophy, it's when there is an imbalance in your body, it's when the energy and the qi, which is energy, is not flowing. There's an imbalance, and disease is caused by an imbalance. So if we can get that flowing and moving back around the body has a greater chance, okay, of thriving. So that was another one I tried. This next one is a little bit new and groundbreaking and pioneering, and I don't think many people will have heard about it, but it is coming through and quite an interesting field, bioresonance. And again, I will put some links in, and this is a fascinating field, and I'm really only touching on it. I have a very good contact now that I have fascinating discussions with quite a lot, and I went to see him again during my whole process, and he would wire me up And bioresonance works on the basis that we are energy, right? We're all energy. Everything is energy. If you look at the quantum physics field, we're all energy. We're not solid. So from an energetic point of view, we are vibrating. Yeah? Everything is actually vibrating. If you looked at solid matter that you think is solid, without getting into all the scientific elements of it, it's not. Okay? It's energy. It's molecular. It's quantum. It's quantum physics. So if we're able to vibrate at a certain level, certain disease cannot survive in the body if the body is vibrating at an optimum level. If the body vibrates at an optimal level and all this, it helps the cells to function. And I don't want to get too much into it because it is quite a complex area to talk about. All I would say to you is it may be something you want to look at and something to research, and just have a look at bioresonance. I think it's something that's going to really start coming to the fore now, and not just for cancer but all sorts of other chronic diseases. So I think this is one that's something to look at. It's quite pioneering. So bioresonance. And the last one I'll leave you with is acupuncture. Again, a huge, very traditional practice, very Eastern philosophy, okay? Another Chinese medicinal kind of practice, acupuncture. Again, it works on the pressure points of the body. It works on getting that chi to flow around the body. And acupuncture actually has become quite mainstream now, hasn't it? In fact, I've noticed that the NHS in England are currently doing acupuncture or offering acupuncture. So again, have a look at something like acupuncture to boost your immune system and boost your energy and boost your health while you're going through this protocol. Okay, so they're the ones that I actually went through myself. I don't feel comfortable talking about things that I haven't actually experienced and that I haven't felt have had a benefit. I tried other little bits in between, but they're the ones I think are pretty significant in terms of the benefit for me and my body during the whole process. So I've talked about some of the alternative therapies that I think would be quite beneficial. Again, I'll stress it's really important that you do what works for you and what resonates with you and follow your gut instinct on that, okay? Have a look at some of them. Again, through this whole set of modules and through this whole teaching, everything I say to you now is down to you, right? You have to take responsibility for what you believe is going to work. I'm just giving you the information. It's up to you to really, really look at it and start researching it. And there's a huge amount of information out there. So just have a look at these things and see what really resonates with you, and maybe try some of the practices, okay, and then see whether they feel of benefit, and then you can continue on with them. So what is this little section about? Well, I just want to touch on the point that whilst I've mentioned some of those, practices that would be very good for you, really critical though that you find the right practitioner. And how do you do that? Well, you have to look at their credentials, of course. So have a look in your area. If you're going to find a protocol that you want to continue on with through your treatment, it's obvious that you'd need to do something that you can have access to, okay? And also that you can afford, because a lot of these alternative practices can cost. It is something that you have to look at. I knew that I spent quite a significant amount of money on my process, and friends and family helped and lots of people threw things in. It was amazing. I was very humbled and very blessed. In fact, a lot of friends and family said it was a wonderful thing that they felt that they could gift me to maybe pay for a treatment or pay for some supplements or pay for some kind of session with somebody. And that's a great way, actually, if you ever want to help other people through that, is to, pay for somebody's session if you think that would be a benefit to them. So have a look at these things. Look at the practitioner. Are they qualified? Are they experienced? Do they have testimonials? Are there other people, patients that you can talk to who have actually been through that process? Have you been referred to them because somebody's gone through with their practice, their protocol, and they found it really effective? So just follow. And the other thing is you'll follow your gut. If you meet that person and something doesn't quite resonate with you and your gut feeling doesn't, you don't gel with that person, the energy's quite off. If you're going to have, consistent treatment with that person, it's really important that you have some kind of good feeling about that person, that you kind of feel you can trust them and you're going to enjoy that process. So let's just summarize here. Have a look, see if anyone's recommended them. Have a look at the testimonials, see how efficient they've been, how effective they've been. Make sure that they are qualified and experienced, and most of the time you can search, you can have a look on a search engine about what the kind of governing bodies are for those particular disciplines. And seek out people who have gone through that process. I mean, most of the people that I went to see had been recommended to me by other people, so I went to see them because of that, okay? And then try some of these practices and see whether they resonate with you and whether you do start to feel a benefit. We did a whole session on mindfulness. As you start becoming a lot more aware of yourself and take that time to listen to yourself, you will know whether you've had a benefit. You'll know whether your body feels differently, whether you feel energized by that treatment. Okay? Okay, so we've talked about some of the other protocols, and there could be more out there. I'm sure there are. There's all sorts of things out there that you can have a look at, okay? And I'm sure there'll be more that come up, actually, hopefully, as we start to look at an integrated approach to all sorts of chronic disease and treatment. But before I move on to some of the resources that are there, that are available, that I looked at, I just want to say that it would be a good idea to use your journal. We discussed the journal in an earlier module. But I think it's a really good idea to journal your treatment process of alternative therapies. So what I used to do was I would list down the day, the time, the practitioner, what it cost, what the session entailed, what I actually did. And then I would also list down what my symptoms were before I went in, how I felt afterwards, and how I felt the next day, because it was really good to start plotting that journey just to see how effective that treatment was and also what effect it had on me at the time. So I just think it's quite a good way to have a look at it. Also, if you're going to continue on with the practice, if you think it's effective, it's quite a good idea to plot that journey, okay? And also it helps other people if you want to help other people and tell them, with the process that you went through. So I just wanted to add that before I get into the resource. So use your journal. It's a really good way of getting those treatments down. Now, the other thing that I did through the whole protocol of it, and I've become a bit... I don't know, a little bit sort of obsessed, I suppose, with reading. I just read as much as possible. Now, sometimes I feel a little bit overwhelmed because there is a lot of information out there, I get it. And sometimes the information can be conflicting and that can be a bit confusing. So I remember at one point, sort of 6 months in, I got a bit angry because I'd read one thing here and then I'd read something else there, and it kind of was annoying that they were contradicting each other. So what I decided to do was I would read as much as possible and I would look at all sorts of stuff. And there's all sorts of things out there. There are books on diet. There are books on people who've had miraculous recoveries. There are books on new treatments. There are books on all sorts of things around cancer and also other chronic disease, heart disease, diabetes, and other autoimmune diseases. So what I did was I read scientific papers and books, but I was looking for common traits, really. I was looking for things that kept coming up all the time. And actually, if you start reading quite a number of things from different resources, you'll see that a number of things keep coming up. And I just don't believe there's any smoke without fire, right? There's no smoke without fire. So why are those things coming up all the time? And they're things to really look at. So there's a lot of books out there. I'm not going to go through all my list of books. I'll be here all day. I also have no affiliation with any authors or books or anything else. But there are some that I felt were a game changer for me. This particular book was really interesting, Radical Remission, Surviving Cancer Against All Odds. Now, I will put a list of books and resources that are available that might be useful to you. There's a downloadable sheet, that's fine. You may find ones that resonate better with you. If you're not a big reader, then a lot of these are all available on all audiobooks, and you can attend seminars and you can look at various speeches on YouTube and things like that. Okay, so you can find a way to get this information that works for you. The only reason that this particular book resonated with me was because it had life stories of people all over the world who had radically cured themselves of cancer without any drugs at all, and how they had done that. And there were 9 particular traits that kept coming up all the time across the world. And I noticed that these traits, similar traits, were coming up in a lot of other books as well. So I literally used that to follow my own protocol. But again, I stress to you, have a look at your own information. find the research, look at the things that resonate with you, and find the common grounds, and find the things that you can adopt, protocols that will work for you, the ones that have really had results, okay? And good luck with it all. But this is all coming back to the whole point of this module as I wrap this up now, is to say to you, there is an alternative. There are some incredible alternative therapies out there. Do the research, have a look, and try, my whole thing was I was going to hit my thing with everything I could possibly give it, right? I was going to look at everything. I was going to bring out all the guns because it's my life. And that's, what else would I do? So that just make sure you do what works for you, and only you will know what's right for you.